This is a presentation of reclaiming wormy chestnut in order to build a wormy chestnut kitchen for very special clients. Hundreds of years ago, it all began with a tree. Chestnut trees were very straight and strong, and they were used as barn beams. While the tree was living, worms attacked the tree and created all of the character that we see in the wood. In the early 1900s, there was a chestnut blight, and now the wood is extinct and there are no more trees. Many of these barns were built in the 1700s, which makes them over 250 years old. However, a lot of barns had their exteriors weathered and the wood is not usable, but the beams are still intact, even though the barn is no longer usable. So the people disassembling the barn pays the owners of the barn to disassemble the barn because the beams have value. And when the barn was built, they really cut down the tree, and at that point it became a beam, as you can see in this photo of the beams that are in inventory. Because they didn't have the tools to use to make them square or other shapes. And then the people that disassemble the barn square up the beam, as you can see, and then cut boards out of the beam that are 1 inch thick. We receive the boards in this condition, and it has a variety of colors, shapes, wormholes, and mortises. The mortises are the way that the barns were constructed, the mortise being the female and the tenon being the male. And this shows another of one of the original mortises, the way the barns were constructed. So the first thing that we do is draw a floor plan of the kitchen to scale, and then we create an order, and this is the cover sheet of the order describing every part of the kitchen, the way it's going to be built. We do a lot of CAD drawings of individual cabinets, and this shows a base corner cabinet which has all the dimensions. The next step is to create a cut parts list for the factory. Once that's done, we begin cutting. You can see pieces that we cut, and it requires a lot of small pieces. There are problems trying to get long pieces for the kitchen. Here you see more parts that were cut that will be machined and assembled into parts of the kitchen. These pieces are cut as front frame stock, which you will see in a moment. This is the tenon of the frame, and it's made up of pieces. The tenon is again the male part, and the mortise is the female part, which makes a very strong joint. This shows the female part. All frames are assembled the same way, and here's a finished frame that's assembled, which will have a drawer and 2 doors. And the next frame shows more photos of multiple frames to make several more cabinets. And this is the front frame of the cabinet. This is showing a tall cabinet which requires long lengths, which are very difficult to cut from the boards that we receive. Then we make the drawers and the pullouts that go in the cabinets. The next step is we need to make the parts for the doors. The first thing that's made is the center panel by gluing up and clamping the individual boards. After that, we then do the raise of the panel, and that's what's being done on this machine. 4 sides are raised as you see them in a finished door, and then the raise is sanded, as is the entire panel. This is drawer stock, and they will become the drawer fronts, and each piece of a door is machined, and this is called the stick. The cope stick is the way the door is assembled, which again is a long groove where the panel is applied. And these parts show more of the pieces for the door. Here's a finished door that's assembled that shows the raise that you saw earlier. And this is a tall door which requires long lengths. As you can see, all of the characteristics of the wood, such as color, wormholes, and all of the variations, are natural. After the doors are made and the cabinets are built, the drawer fronts and doors have to be fitted to the frame. That's what this is showing. And here are doors being fitted and sanded with the shims around each door. This is the sanding that is the final fitting process. After that, we drill the back of the doors for the hinges, which are concealed once the kitchen is assembled. It requires a 35mm hole, and here is a finished cabinet with the doors that go with it. And then it's going to be sanded, final sanded, and ready for finishing. And then the doors are sanded also, which is the final step. It usually takes about 60 or 70 craftsmen to build a kitchen, and the next step is spraying, which is the sealer. After the sealer is applied, it's very wet and it's got to dry, and then it's sanded again, and then it's top coated. After top coating, all the cabinets, parts, doors, drawer fronts, moldings are placed in the drying room for several hours, and then the entire job goes to the hardware department, where all the parts are put together, such as the drawer fronts, the drawer slides, the shelves, and all the items come together to make a finished kitchen. At this point, all the loose parts are wrapped in several ways. One way is bubble wrap, and all of the appliance panels are wrapped as well. Throughout the production process, everything is quality controlled in each department. At the end of the production is the final quality control, which is what you see at this point. Here's a cabinet and another cabinet, which is a bench seat, and appliance panels for the refrigerator and freezer. In this particular job, These are the soffit panels which will be installed horizontally and also wrapped prior to shipping. Remembering the tree, the barn, and the beams, you now see reclaiming and recycling in its truest form, using wormy chestnut for this home as a kitchen for years to come.